Fear the Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 14, El Matadero. Now, this episode, of course, is the episode leading into the 2-hour season finale, and although it wasn't like the crazy, bombastic sort of episode you might expect, it was definitely interesting, and they definitely did a lot of stuff, but it was odd how calm it was, but it was a lot of change for this episode. Of course, very beginning, I was completely wrong. I spent a decent chunk of time, I'd say, for my last review talking about how the last episode was really cool. Even though, in my mind at least, there was no fear of any of the main characters getting killed off or anything like that. I really enjoyed how unique the experience was, that how they had to deal with the zombies and people dying due to lack of oxygen, and that's what basically created the mini horde inside the bunker. And there was, of course, like the one zombie inside the vent that Opfelia had to deal with, which I thought she dealt with and everything was good. And I was like, that was really cool, even though I never felt there was any tension or anything like that of a main character dying. Still thought it was cool. Turns out I was very wrong because a main character was wounded and Opfelia ultimately ends up dying by the end of this episode as a result of that interaction in the last episode. And they did a great job kind of starting the episode off with that. And it was very interesting, of course. They're just driving down the road and she starts to pass out and she just falls off the truck. And they did like an actual fall. It wasn't like they did it from a weird angle. It was like, nope, they had a stunt person just drop off the back of the truck, and it was really cool. Of course, they obviously weren't going as fast as the truck was actually going, because that person would have been insanely wounded. Plus, they would have slid across the ground. Like, you don't drop off a truck at, 20 miles per hour and just, like, hit the ground once it stopped. You would keep rolling. Like, that's just how it works. But even with them going slower, they did a great job of making it look really fast. And just the hit itself, I was like, that was an actual hit. If that was CG, it was incredibly well done. But it was like, wow, that was a legitimate hit, and then everyone's freaking out, and everybody hops off the truck, and she's just like, yo, it's cool, I lost my balance, no big deal, let's just keep going. And of course, before they even show it, like, once she fell off, I was like, alright, she got dizzy, and she fell off the truck. Unless she's about to get up and they find out, they do like some crazy surprise that Opfelia was pregnant this whole time, of course the answer is going to be that she was actually bit, and now she's starting to feel the effects of the virus. And naturally, that's what ends up being the case. She had a bite mark on her shoulder. And after that, I think it was almost like, it was like half the characters had a catalyst from that, and then the other half of the characters, which I guess really was only just Nick and Alicia, they had a catalyst from Alicia herself already making the choice to leave. And I thought they did a really good job with the way the stories kind of, really played out for everyone, because ultimately when Nick ends up coming back, because he can't convince Alicia to come back, that's when he starts to get involved with everything that's going on with Opfelia. And I think her having that bite is what was like the big catalyst for everything that happened at the football stadium, or just the stadium, whatever it's for. And I thought that was really cool, because that moment changed everything. Because Strand was like, okay, I don't really want to see Salazar, but we got his daughter, we can, kind of work out this new trade deal. Not that bad. Like, it's not going to be that crazy. And then, of course, once he finds out Ophelia's been bitten and that she's going to die soon, he's freaking out. He's like, this is already bad. This is terrible now. There's no way in the world that this is going to work with us, meeting with Salazar and wanting to kind of go back on our deal. Plus, we don't actually have his daughter, and she's going to be dead. So he ends up going to whoever this Proctor John person is, who I would assume is one of the high-ranking people, if not the leader of the entire stadium. And I was like, alright, clearly, and they even show it in the promo, there are people attacking the dam, so that's the deal that he made. Was like, hey, have this bit of information, that you may not be aware of, so here's a deal for myself. Possibly, Madison and Nick and Taka, who knows, because it's strange, you never know who he really includes in on the good side of a deal. But he made some deal, and it's like, yep, here's this dam, this is what they have, and I'm giving you this information in exchange for blank. So I'm sure that'll get revealed in one of the next 2 episodes, but, he's sent off to do his own thing, which, ultimately was just like 2 little parts in the whole episode, and that was it. But that sent him off on his own story. Madison was the one, I say Madison and Taka were the 2 characters that were kind of staying within the Opfelia Salazar storyline, that they didn't really branch out. They were more the ones trying to keep the glue together, like, hey, no one needs to freak out, we're going to make this work, we're going to make sure that Opfelia lives, we get her, pain meds and stuff like that, and we're going to make this work until she's able to see her father at least, one last time. So the 2 of them were doing their thing. I don't know what in the world happened to the dude that was on the back of the truck. I always forget his name. I can never remember if it's Wild Dog or Mad Dog. But he just disappeared. Like, he legitimately disappeared after that opening scene. He was not in a single shot that I can recall from the entire episode after that moment with him on the truck. Unless he left and there was some scene that I just completely missed where he took off because he was freaking out. I don't know. But I do not remember seeing him at all after that scene. And it was just like he vanished after that moment. Because I kept waiting. I was like, alright, so what's he doing here at the stadium? And what's he going to say about how Opfelia is doing and all this other stuff? And he just legitimately was not there. It was so weird because he was there and then he wasn't. Like I said, unless that, like I always say, unless there was a scene I missed, because I like to give the benefit of the doubt to every show, but I'm pretty sure I would have noticed if he was there. And then if he was, they had him silent throughout literally the rest of the episode. Like, he said nothing, and he was in the background, and maybe I missed him because I looked down and looked up, and his 2 seconds were done just being a background character. But he just had nothing in this episode. After that, he just up and disappeared, and he just, it's like he literally was not there at the stadium. So I thought that was weird. I really wanted to note that because I was like, he just vanished, like, or was that just me? But you know, aside from him not really doing anything, Nick kind of has 2 catalysts because, of course, like I said, he has Alicia, who's like, you know, I'm good, I'm happy, you know, I'm better doing it this way, just being alone and surviving. So he and Troy go back and, of course, learn everything about Opfelia, and he kind of has his own little moment where he wants to kind of do his own thing and be alone again. And he ends up going down this really bad spiral, which is he starts off by taking one of the pain meds that they got for Opfelia. He goes to Troy, and he kind of just drags him along on this crazy drug journey where Troy's like, I don't want to do this, I don't want drinks or anything. And it's like, yeah, but I saved your life. And it was the craziest thing. And that's one of the things I liked about it, because Nick was forcing Troy to do stuff, and Troy was the one who was like super nervous and freaking out the whole time, when every other moment has been Troy's acting insane. Who knows what will happen next? But in this episode, most of the episode at least, he's freaking out. He's trying to stop Nick. He's like, look, I don't want this drink. I don't want these drugs. And it's like, hey, why don't we not eat these crazy, you know, pig brain stems and stuff? And, you know, them hopping over the fence and doing the zombie blood thing again. I was just like, man, this is really odd. Like, Nick is just kind of losing it, where, you know, he kind of just sees what was going on. And he kind of stayed with his mom. Like, they talk about that very early on in the episode, where, you know, Troy was like, you know, why'd you stay? And he was like, well, Travis was gone, and my sister was there, but mostly it was because, you know, my mom was kind of losing herself, so I kind of had to stay for her, and of course his girlfriend was also sick. So Troy was like, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. It was just, you know, we're kind of the same, you just don't like that we're the same, like, we're, you know, same sort of crappy person, and you don't like that. And I think that was kind of it. That was that little moment, and then of course him seeing Alicia happy just doing whatever she wanted to do, because that's just the life they're in now. It's like, either you suffer constantly losing people, or you just kind of exist and enjoy however you can. And for him, it was easy. Just stay at the stadium. It's very simple. It's insanely well guarded. You know, find a way to get money, easy way to get drugs, and that's it. So that's kind of the journey he went on. And by the end, he's like, you know, he lies to Madison. It's like, you know, we were thinking we stay here as sort of a bit of an anchor for when you guys need items to trade. Will be a simple way in for you guys. So they're going to end up staying at the stadium. We'll see how long that lasts. Of course, we have 2 episodes. So even in the promo, they have Troy saying, like, you know, your mom's in trouble, Nick. So, of course, they're going to end up either at the dam or fighting their way to the dam. So, of course, that'll, you know, that's how that's going to ultimately end up playing out. But I just thought it was so interesting. I was like, man, he's just regressing back to who he was before everything went down. And he became like that drug addict for a moment, just doing whatever, you know, living their life. So definitely some interesting storylines at the stadium. And then Alicia's storyline, her kind of going off, doing her own thing to be happy, ultimately led her right back into having another person to protect. And they both talk about the same thing, where they don't really want friends. It's just kill zombies, survive, move on to the next place, get some items, and keep on doing the same thing. But I am curious how that's going to play out. You know, that's like the whole purpose, is for them to not end up being friends. But it does make me wonder. I am very curious how that'll play out. But I liked her storyline. Her going to, you know, this little restaurant. She ends up finding this big, you know, tub of potatoes. And then, of course, she didn't really scan the place too well. So she ended up having to kill this one zombie. Then there's like 5 others coming in. So she hops into the ball pit. And once again, she didn't check. Because the first thing I thought was, it would be cool if they did that. You know, had like a kid zombie, which I think I think it was an actual adult. Mostly because of the fact that it was Madison like stabbing the knife into the zombie's head. I think it was an actual person that just made her look like a kid. But that's like a legal thing. Like, you can't physically show kids being killed. It can't be like in the same shot. That's what they did in The Walking Dead, like the original series, way back in like season 2 when they were on the farm when they had to kill a little girl. Technically, you see Rick shoot the gun, and then it cuts to the girl being killed. For some odd reason, we have rules like this. Like, you can show this, but it can't be in the same shot. Like, the bullet travels from here to here, as if we can't connect it mentally. But for whatever weird reason, that's a TV law. So I think that was an adult just dressed to look like a child. But I thought it was a cool little sequence where she kind of got pulled under like it was Jaws or something, which I thought was so weird because I'm like, that really doesn't make sense. And then somehow she was able to pop back up and they're fighting now. But definitely thought it was a cool sequence. And then she ends up hiding, further in the ball pit so that she avoids this random woman who comes in who was super cool. She came in with that pickaxe and was just swinging it. I mean, she was swinging the thing like it was a sword. Like, it seemed, the way she was swinging it was like, it was just super light, like it was no big deal. Because I'm like, pickaxes are weird because all the weight is at one point, so that makes it, it's just like an axe or anything. And it was just like, the way she's swinging it was just nuts. She was just like, boom, and then she would go for like the double hit, and she was just taking them out, and it's like, oh, potatoes, picks them up, and then she's gone. And so Alicia ends up tracking her down, and it's like, hey, these are supposed to be mine. They ultimately talk, she doesn't want to kill this woman, and, she was the one with all the cards, she was the one with the gun. But ultimately she's like, alright, we can share them. And that's pretty much it. They have a conversation about not wanting to be friends and, kind of why they branch out on their own, or why they have at this point in their lives during this absolute madness. And then ultimately they kind of have to team up at the end because the car broke down, so the woman couldn't leave. So it's like, alright, well, let's do this. And I'm sure somehow they'll make their way back to the stadium, or something's going to happen. Although it would be interesting, because at first, when this woman showed up, I thought she was one of the characters. I've mentioned this a million times, but I thought she was going to be one of the characters from the Passage thing that happened before this season, like the little mini-series they did, and they still haven't come in. So I'm curious. I'm like, either they're going to come in during the last 2 episodes, or they forgot to find a way, they just didn't bother to find a way to put them in there, so we won't see them until next season. But I was surprised. I'm like, we got all the way through this season, and those characters still have not shown up in any capacity. I don't know if we're going to end up ever, last 2 episodes, so they could still end up going back to Nick's old girlfriend. I totally forgot her name because he said it once in this episode, but once a character's gone, I'm just terrible with names as is, so it's like, I gotta keep hearing it. So Travis's ex-girlfriend, we might still end up seeing her, and my best guess is that she will be the one to come in contact with those 2 characters, because it's one black lady and a white lady. And that's why I thought, this black lady that came in, I was like, oh, it's going to be that character. I thought that's why they weren't showing her face at first, but that wasn't the same person. So I was like, oh, that's not the same character like I thought it was. So they might bring them in these last 2 episodes. We might actually do that. Otherwise, we will not see these characters until next season. And I don't know what that means for the little mini-series thing that they do, just like they did with season 2, where they had the people on the plane, and then those 2 characters, or at least the one female character, ended up running into the main cast because the kid ended up dying on the boat. But I'm like, alright, well, if they're coming in, they're going to do just like they did in season 2, where they give the recap of that miniseries for people that didn't watch it. Like, this is what happened with these totally insignificant characters, and maybe they'll become relevant, but maybe they won't. So ultimately, we just have to wait and see what ends up happening. But I am very curious. We're going into the 2-hour season finale, so I'm definitely excited for that. But there's a lot to happen. We have the dam being attacked. We have Alicia's storyline now. We have, Nick's new perspective, but still him being kind of caught up in the main storyline of, dealing with the dam, because he's going to have to go, help protect his mother. So there's still elements out there as to where they could be headed. And then we do still have characters that are kind of just out in the ether, particularly Nick's ex-girlfriend, and then these 2 characters that are supposed to come in at some point, I would assume, from the little Passage mini-story that they did. So I am very curious how these next 2 episodes are going to go. I'm super curious if they're going to destroy the dam. I highly doubt it, because it's just like so dumb. But at the same time, if they don't want to die, maybe that's a weird, crazy way to do it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm always thinking like, alright, they destroyed the ranch, so now the dam is the next place for them to destroy, technically speaking, because that's just how that story goes. It's like every place they get to, just kaboom, there's something blows up, something falls apart, relationships, literal structures. They never get to stay in one place. So they've had their season, and the ranch is coming on. The dam is the next place. And they could technically go back to the hotel at some point if they wanted to do that, because the hotel is still there, the characters are still there, and none of them have been like killed off or anything like that. As far as we know, the hotel has technically been overrun, but they could still go back. I doubt they'll do that just because it's like, it would literally be like them going through and doing exactly what they did the first time, although this time they might not find anybody. So I doubt they'll end up going back to the hotel, but it's just like, are they going to be at the dam? Is that going to work? Are they going to somehow destroy the dam and then still move on, you know, within the next 2 episodes, move on to something new going into season 4? So I don't know. That's like the story of this series. Like that's a big part of like the original series as well, but I feel like it's just like super fast paced in this show. Like they've gone through, well, four places, almost 5 now, and this is just season 3 because they had the original location. They had the first ranch that they went to when they were in Mexico. They had the boat, of course, that failed. The hotel has failed. And now the ranch. So yeah, that's 5 places, and the 6th place, 6th and 7th, I guess, the dam and the stadium are also 2 locations. But of course, if they live at the stadium, it would just be an easy show. So that's not what's going to happen. That's going to be a trading post. They won't be able to just live there forever, and they won't, because otherwise the show would just be over. Because they could, realistically speaking. At least it seems that way for now. Like at some point that stadium thing ain't going to play out. Like you can have all the tattoos and gold, but you still need food and water, and at some point that's just not going to play out. So I am curious what's going to happen in these next 2 episodes, but enjoyed this one. Very surprising opening, and ultimately I think it was just an interesting story with how everyone was just doing their own little thing based on these, you know, 2 catalysts. At least for Nick, it was 2 catalysts. For everyone else, it was just Opfelia being wounded, and just how that changed things up. Of course, great moment at the end of the episode where, unfortunately, and they did it in the saddest way possible, where she literally dies as Salazar is pulling up. I was like, that was just the worst way to do that. That's so sad. And of course, he gets there, and he's super pissed off, and it's just like, you know, what kind of sick joke is this, and stuff like that. So definitely a great moment, and ultimately as Madison's walking away, he has to, excuse me, pull the trigger and, you know, shoot his daughter. And it was just like, man, that is such a sad way to do that. It was like so heartbreaking to have this character go through this, all this crazy madness and stuff, and then they get him there, and it's right after, you know, his daughter died. It was just like, wow, that's a sad way to do that, but well written, just insanely depressing to see it that way. But really enjoyed this episode. Very excited for the 2-hour season finale. I'm excited to see what characters we get, what new locations we're going to be getting, because they're going to blow something up and they got to go somewhere new. That is Fear the Walking Dead. That's like the staple of this series. They can't be in one place for like apparently more than a season. I mean, dang, the ranch came in this season and it's already gone. So who knows what's going to happen in these next 2. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And naturally, want to know your theories for what is going to happen in this season finale. Also, just want to know what you guys want to see from the season finale. For me personally, I would love to see them show Nick's ex-girlfriend. I would love to see where she's at and what random new location she found, if she found her family, if she ran into those 2 characters from the Passage miniseries. That's really what I want to see, just because we have the main story. We know that's going to be resolved. Either they're going to be in the dam or they're not going to be in the dam. But I'm so curious because that was just so early on in the season, and she left, and then it was like, okay, well, we never got to see what happened. It was almost like with Opfelia last season. She left, and nothing, like nothing whatsoever. She didn't even get 1 episode like Opfelia did last season with the flashback thing. You know, Nick's girlfriend left, and she was just gone. So it's like, all right, I want to see her at some point. They might do what they did with Opfelia, and she's like the last scene or something. But I want to see her come back, and I definitely want to see those 2 characters from the miniseries integrated. But I just don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if they have plans to make them that important, or, you know, how they really want to kind of play around with that idea. But that's mostly what I want to see, is those 3 characters kind of really come into the story for the last 2 hours of the season. And other than that, no real theories, to be totally honest. It's hard to say, because they always destroy stuff, so it's like they almost can't destroy the dam, but at the same time that could be a crazy last resort. And they, you know, because they've even mentioned it before, like, what if we just get rid of the whole concept of trading the water? We just open the floodgates and just let the water go out, and then it's like, well, then it'll dry up, but then it'll rain, and, you know, natural cycle of precipitation and evaporation. So it's like, that could totally come into play. It was like a random line early on, but I'm like, that could happen. They're getting attacked, and it's like, well, if we just let out all the water, what's there to fight for? So it's really hard to say. Like, it's kind of a toss-up, but I feel like they might end up doing that, and then we just see kind of how that affects the land for the next season. But like I said, would love to know what theories you guys have, and of course what you thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.